Hello, and welcome to Technology Today for October 20th, 2024. It's Season 1, Episode 28. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the Sentient AI, we're going to be talking about defective mitochondria and Crohn's disease, biotech and engineered trees, creepy or the deadly spider, earliest animals in Australia, and laser sends data 290 million miles. Most of these articles are more in depth than our other shows. So we have 5 of these, and we're going to talk about them for about 30 minutes. So I hope you enjoy the show. See you on the other side. And I kind of warned everybody because we can't really go too in depth because we limit our show to 30 minutes. And it's more about drawing attention to the concepts and the material of this and some of the stuff that we think is really fascinating. So we highlight it in a show that's dedicated to this deeper perspective of science and technology. So welcome, Sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, ohmTown citizens. And we'd certainly encourage anybody listening to one of the discussions to go and read the full article.
Yeah. Oh, and I did it again. Doggone it. Am I just not? My brain is not working today. Hold on one second. I'm going to fix this. Yeah, I didn't put today's articles in ohmTown again. So I did it in the last show and messed up. And now here I am again. So I'll do it really fast. Okay. So if you are interested in all of today's show notes, you can !TT, and ohmTown will spit it all into the chat. So there you go. That said, let's get into this. So, defective mitochondria. New research uncovers hidden cause of Crohn's disease. Apparently, it's linked to the mitochondria. Researchers at the Technical University of Munich have linked mitochondrial dysfunctions to Crohn's disease, demonstrating that defective mitochondria in mice can induce symptoms of chronic intestinal inflammation and affect the microbiome. This finding opens up the possibilities for treatments focused on mitochondrial restoration. Kind of interesting, huh?
So, I mean, this is something you can legitimately blame your mother for.
Yeah, very true. So mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, is provided by mom. And apparently some, what do they call it? Defective mitochondria. So you can go in, if you have Crohn's disease, you can go over and say to mom, I blame you, and have scientific evidence to support your claim. So a team led by Dirk Haller, which sounds like a protagonist name in a...
Sounds like the Lincoln Lawyer's brother or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Lincoln Lawyer season 3 just dropped. So chair of nutrition immunology and director of the Institute for Food and Health at the Technical University of Munich has searched for the cause of these changes in the microbiome and investigated the interplay of the microbiome, the intestinal epithelium, and mitochondria. The intestinal epithelium is a cell layer that lines the inside of the intestine, absorbs nutrients, and fights off pathogens. Mitochondria are small cellular structures that convert nutrients into energy and therefore influence cellular metabolism and the ability of the cells to perform their functions. So apparently Haller and his team have been pursuing this hypothesis that mitochondria not only serve as the power plants of the cells, but also interact with the microbiome. In addition, previous research has shown that the intestinal epithelium in patients with chronic intestinal inflammation exhibits certain stress markers indicating possible mitochondrial malfunction. Get in line, mitochondrial malfunction. So it's apparently...
Junction, what's your function?
Mitochondrial function. So they deleted a gene segment responsible for producing the protein HSP60. This protein is essential for the ability of mitochondria to perform their tasks. The intervention triggered various processes in the gut. Poor mice. Changes were also seen at the level of gene activation that is typical of some stages of the disease. In addition, an essential development for the question investigated by the team, the microbiome responded to the disrupted mitochondria by changing its composition. I find that really intriguing because there's... Okay, so I haven't done much research into Crohn's disease, but I thought that it is like whole system damaging. Like a person with Crohn's disease can have an outbreak kind of a thing where they end up in the emergency room having to have surgeries and other things going on.
Yes, it can be very debilitating, but I think it is kind of one of those, there are flare-ups and then more passive periods.
So they're saying that mitochondrial defects can impact this, can cause Crohn's disease possibly. And simply this mitochondrial defect impacts the biome.
But that's interesting. I mean, is the biome based on the specifics of the mitochondria to begin with? I'm assuming not. So I find it fascinating that could affect it.
And it affects the entire human being. But they're literally saying that this is something that takes place in the intestine, and by and large, that means your stomach. So when the doctor sits there and says you have to eat healthy, it may not actually be as simple as that, because your mitochondria is dictating how effective nutrient uptake and all of that is, to the point where it's affecting your entire microbiome. And
right. And I don't even know if like your mitochondrial function is something that can be tested easily.
Interesting. So they say this insight might... Go ahead.
I just don't know if it's something in a standard blood test, for example.
Yeah, I think I looked into it once, but I didn't get a very positive result. But then again, the doctor that you talk to for that kind of information may not be the one that is best suited to answer it.
Right.
So they say the big hope is to find active ingredients that would restore the functionality of disrupted mitochondria. In other words, to repair them in a sense. This would limit intestinal damage as a trigger for chronic inflammation processes, says Haller. Our results suggest that drugs that act on mitochondrial pathways or address the connections between the microbiome and mitochondria could be a key aspect of better treatments. So,
by the way, there are tests that kind of indicate that there could be mitochondrial dysfunction, but most of them don't specifically point to the mitochondria. And so it's probably one of these things that goes under or non-diagnosed.
Yeah. They say it's something else, what is that? What's the one that's like the catch-all nowadays?
It's metabolic syndrome X or something like that.
Metabolic syndrome X, which is the catch-all where a doctor just says, well, you got to get healthy. Really? Never freaking thought of that. Let's keep going. So the next article is over in Technology Today as well. Biotech breakthrough, trees engineered to replace fossil fuels. Scientists at NC, I think it's North Carolina, State University have discovered how modifying lignin in trees using CRISPR can make them better suited for microbial fermentation to produce chemicals sustainably. This breakthrough could replace the need for petroleum-based chemicals, offering a greener alternative that is both economically viable and environmentally benign. And I love that. Environmentally benign, right up until we discover that it's neither economically viable or environmentally benign.
Right, but it's suddenly impacting honeybees or something down the road.
Yeah. So North Carolina State University put the article together. It's published at scitechdaily.com. This is really cool. Researchers have engineered poplar trees with altered lignin content that are more easily degraded by microbes, paving the way for sustainable chemical production and providing a promising solution to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. What are they getting from trees?
Well, I didn't even know. Well, are they even getting anything today? Maybe this is just an alternative to fully chemical, or like synthesized chemicals or more harmful chemicals.
A key challenge has been lignin. I keep saying lignin. I'm not sure why I keep saying that, but lignin, a polymer that makes trees stronger and resistant to decay. North Carolina state researchers have now discovered why lignin is so difficult to work with. They identified a specific molecular feature, its methoxy content, that determines how easily microbial fermentation can break down trees and other plants to produce industrial chemicals. So what are these industrial chemicals? Born from trees.
I mean, most basically, maybe petroleum.
From trees themselves? That's what I...
Yeah, I didn't know there was a connection. I thought this was a full alternative, but it sounds like they're already using existing trees for this process, which I didn't know.
Yeah, it says here the findings put us a step closer to making industrial chemicals from trees as an economically and environmentally sustainable alternative to chemicals derived from petroleum. Kelly's group previously proved that certain extreme thermophilic bacteria, which thrive in places such as Yellowstone National Park hot springs, can degrade the cellulose in trees, but, quote, not to a great extent. In other words, not to the level that would make economic or environmental sense for producing industrial chemicals. And they blame lignin.
By the way, it can, in a separate study, they found that this could replace phenol, which is used in petroleum.
Gotcha. In phenols in general, there's several, but Wang had created the low lignin poplars to be better for paper making and other fiber products, but the recent research suggests that engineered poplars that have not just low lignin, but also low methoxy content are best for making chemicals through microbial fermentation. Gotcha. Oh, so it says Kelly's group has previously shown that low lignin poplar trees can be converted to industrial chemicals such as acetone and hydrogen gas with favorable economic outcomes as well as low environmental impact. Interesting. Okay. So acetone is a solvent. Hydrogen gas, though, it can be captured and put into a fuel cell. And if it can be a green process, then great. Getting away from petroleum.
We had a separate article earlier this week about hydrogen capsules being used or investigated by Toyota Research Institute.
Yeah, and yesterday we talked about it, and earlier in the week we talked about it because we have weekly shows as well as the daily show, and it was fascinating enough that I wanted to include it in both. Don't normally do that kind of a thing, but I think that it's important enough that we need to address the use of EVs versus which, when you get really into the peeling back the layers of the onion, EVs are actually pretty bad for the environment, but we'll end up talking about this again and again. So microbial advantage and industrial potential. They talk about enzymes that can be used to break down cellulose into simple sugars, but they continually need to be added to the process. Certain microorganisms, on the other hand, continually produce the key enzymes that make the microbial process more economical. So they basically want to ferment their way, like a yeast, basically working through a product until it runs out of the sugar that powers it, and then it actually uses the chemicals in the sugars to produce alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it says they can do much better job than enzymes and chemicals. Not only do they break down the cellulose, but they also ferment it to products such as ethanol, all in one step. Ethanol is an alcohol. It's basically, ethanol is the drinkable alcohol. There's methanol as well, but you don't drink methanol. But ethanol is a
It's used in liquor production, right?
yeah, it's a solvent, and it can do extractions and stuff like that as well. So high temperatures in these bacteria grow at also avoid the need to work under sterile conditions, as you would need to do with less thermophilic microorganisms to avoid contamination. This means that the process for turning trees into chemicals can operate like a conventional industrial process, making it more likely to be adopted. Yeah, they basically want to distill the trees into raw materials. It's kind of interesting.
It is. I mean, if they can convert industries over to these less harmful processes, I think this is a win, provided that they
Non-petroleum.
can make enough trees and not hurt the trees, or they have enough to replace them, etc.
Yeah, as long as everything is a circle and you're not going negative, but we're chopping down trees like nobody's business and turning it into farmland and then exporting the farm product. Anyway, let's keep going. This is interesting. This next article is over in the Marble Channel. Creepy cure, deadly spider venom tapped for heart attack drug.
How do you think they came up with this study? I have an idea.
They got bit by a deadly spider venom and
Right, and they started to have a heart attack because they were really panicked, and then they were okay.
what kind of a clinical trial is this? The clinical trial is set to test whether a protein from the venom of the Kagari funnel web spider can protect hearts during heart attacks and organ donation. Wow. So Ed Cara over at gizmodo.com put the article together.
Do you have to carry one of those spiders around with you? Hopefully not.
Yeah, in a little vial on your chest. And it says break but don't smash spider in case of heart attack.
Right, exactly. And for those in the podcast, this is a pretty lethal looking spider in the picture.
Yeah, so researcher, the picture is a researcher interacting with a Kagari funnel web spider, and it looks like this spider isn't going to take any shit from these.
Right, it's like, you're gonna get some venom from me, but
yeah, you're going to get some venom from me, all right. While there are now several classes of drugs that can prevent or treat heart issues, cardiovascular disease remains the single largest leading cause of death. So any new treatments that can safeguard our heart are still worthwhile. Researchers at the University of Queensland and elsewhere think that they've landed upon a candidate from the Australian Kagari Island, formerly known as Fraser Island, a protein called HI1A or HA1A.
are we surprised that this spider is located in Australia?
No, zero chance that this wasn't located. The spiders are thought to have some of the deadliest and most complex venom ever found in spiders, but only a handful of the 3,000 proteins in their venom are considered outright lethal. Only a handful of the 3,000 proteins in their venom are considered outright lethal to humans, while others like HI1A could have practical applications.
So if you get stung, do you go, oh, I hope I only had, 2,998 of those proteins?
So did these spiders bite you? Like they envenom you, right? With fangs.
Yes,
so it's like
I suppose so.
Snake bite, right? Same attribute could also be used to improve the survivability of donor hearts during organ retrieval. Yikes. After having obtained substantial funding from the Australian government's Medical Research Future Fund, the researchers are now ready to start a clinical trial of HI1A for heart attacks and heart donation, which is expected to run for 4 years. And I suspect that if it doesn't work for the heart attack, then I guess it turns immediately into heart donation.
Oh, I didn't think about the nexus. Yeah, that could be a double experiment in one.
Although a heart attack heart is not the best candidate, right? It's probably not a candidate at all for donation. But so, yeah, many promising. They don't really go into why it is. They just say that it is. Yeah, Researchers are generally hopeful about the future of deriving new treatments from the venom of animals, a field known as venomics. Yep.
It takes a special kind of person to work in that kind of field, right? You're dealing with dangerous animals all the time and dangerous venoms.
Yep. King and his team are also hoping that HI1A. This is not a very good name for this because H1 blah blah is
H1N1, H1N5. I mean, there's a lot of variations,
yeah,
but the
all
bird
of those
flus.
H1s are bird flus. Yeah. So King and his team are hoping that HI1A, jeepers creepers, it's so hard to say that, could be used to treat strokes and certain forms of epilepsy. Well, good luck.
Wow, I mean, all of this from one spider.
Yep. Spider venom might not give you any superpowers, but it could turn out to be a rich source of novel and important medicines. Because Spider-Man got bit by a radioactive spider that turned him into a...
I know.
Moving on.
Are you Mayor Watts-plaining? And oh my goodness.
I am Watts-plaining, yeah.
Did you see the surprise appearance?
Oh no.
There was a full catwalk.
I wasn't looking. Oh boy. Oh boy. Scientists discover one of the Earth's rarest animals in Australian outback. In the shadow of South Australia's largest mountain range, beneath the outback soil lies a fossil record that reveals a rich history of life on Earth. So this article is over at phys.org, and Mackenzie Harris, is it back?
There were multiple appearances.
Anyway, Mackenzie Harris, Florida State University, put this article together over at phys.org. Is this what it looks like? Artistic rendering of what scientists believe Quastio Simpsonorum. Is it back? I'm sorry.
It's a three-peat.
Well, now it's into the inner bowels of ohmTown, so I have to be afraid. Anyway, so a new discovery. What you're looking at is a graphic representation, an artistic work of what they believe Quastio Simpsonorum looked like, which it looks like a purple Scooby.
I was going to say like a mushroom or something, but okay.
I don't know. I don't know. It's more like an ooze, a mold. So, which is a SCOBY. So anyway, a symbiotic, what do they call it? What is SCOBY short for? A symbiotic community of, yeah, I can't remember.
Did you know there was somebody with the last name Scobie who shows up when you try to find anything about Scobie?
I knew somebody growing up named Scobie.
Oh, well, symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
There you go. So it's the first animal to show a definitive left-right symmetry, or asymmetry, left-right asymmetry, an important sign of evolutionary development. The team's findings appear in Evolution and Development. The animal is a little smaller than the size of your palm and has a question mark shape in the middle of its body that distinguishes itself between left and right side. There aren't other fossils from this time that have shown this type of organization so definitively. This is especially interesting as this is also one of the first animals that was capable of moving on its own. Researchers said Quastio, I pronounced it properly. Quastio, yeah, Quastio. Quastio behaved like a small marine Roomba vacuum, consuming nutrients from the microscopic algae, bacteria, and
must
other.
Have been like an oyster or something.
Yeah, or like a sea snail without a shell,
Right.
Just kind of
That's
oozed
true.
around.
That's probably closer, yeah.
Or a starfish without the legs. Researchers discovered distinct Quastio impressions along with evidence of its trails, known as trace fossils, in this fossilized matte texture. So they found the little footprint of it, and then it was in a different location. Dun dun. So Roomba it is, because it's like vacuuming up all of the material there. So pretty cool. One of the most exciting moments when excavating the bed where we found many Quastio was when we flipped over a rock, brushed it off, and spotted what was obviously a trail fossil behind a Quastio specimen, a clear sign that the organism was motile. It could move, said Ian Hughes, a Harvard University organismic and evolutionary biology graduate student and one of the team's researchers. Pretty cool. So there's a lot more. Go ahead.
Very cool. I'm sure this is a real game changer in this field.
They want to re-examine sites throughout the park's nearly 150,000 acres. The South Australian Museum has volunteers that want to go back. Yeah, pretty cool. It's apparently a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Nilpena Ediacara National Park opened to the public in 2023 and is part of a bid to be recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
Interesting. Oh, give me an idea. You'll have to remind me. Okay, last article for Technology Today. It's over in the Technology Today channel at ohmTown.com, and it's our show that we're talking about right now. Oh my gosh, it's almost like it's in the name. Pardon me one second.
So what I wonder is how this connects to the previous laser news we've seen.
Kind of interesting, right? So NASA's laser sends data 290 million miles to Psyche, revolutionizing deep space messaging. And we have this relay station that's out by, where was it? Like Saturn or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty far out though.
But we have Psyche sitting out there. So NASA's Deep Space Optical Communications tech demo has completed several key milestones, culminating in sending a signal to Mars, farthest distance from Earth. Optical communications technology aboard NASA's Psyche spacecraft has proven effective over distances up to 290 million miles, paving the way for future high-speed data transmission in space.
How about on Earth?
Well, I think on Earth we have the problem of line of sight. So because the Earth has is a oval obloid, right? That's what they call it. I think it's an obloid, spherical obloid. Anyway, before I get down that line, the article's over at scitechdaily.com.
It's an oblate spheroid, according to one site.
Oblate spheroid, right? Oblate spheroid. So JPL put the article together. It's over at scitechdaily.com. And I think it's because of that. There's a horizon that's pretty definitive, and you can't go past like 10 miles, I think it is. If you're on the surface, 10 miles before you're no longer above the horizon line because of the angle. I think it's something like that. But and so whatever is going to be relayed has to bounce through. That's why we have like
cell towers and other things. Yeah.
So it says NASA's Deep Space Optical Communications Technology demonstration set a new record, 290 million miles. That's the same distance between our planet and Mars when the two planets are farthest apart. Shortly after achieving the milestone on July 29th, the technology demonstration successfully completed the initial phase of its operation, which began with the launch aboard Psyche on October 13th, 2023. Soon after reaching the milestone, the technology demonstration concluded the first phase of its operation, launching aboard Psyche. So I think they said that twice, and thus I did too. So it's pretty significant, which means that we can send a huge amount of data. And I think it was, let's see, what was the amount of data? If we remember right, it was somewhere in the megabytes of data.
I think it was, but
or more than that. So the Optical Communications Telescope Laboratory at JPL's Table Mountain facility near Wrightwood, California, acts as the uplink station capable of transmitting 7 kilowatts of laser power to send data to the transceiver. 7 kilowatts, jeepers. 267.
Well, it's 267 megabits per second.
Yeah. So not bad. I mean, it's not gigabit speeds, but it's sending it 270 million miles away. So when I'm sure that if we were to keep that same power, but only do it line of sight on Earth, I'm sure that we can do laser light way faster than what we're doing now through fiber optics. But I'm not sure. It says here, on June 24th, when Psyche was about 240 million miles from Earth, more than 2.5 times the distance between our planet and the sun, the project achieved a sustained download rate of 6.25 megabits per second, with a maximum rate of 8.3 megabits per second. While the rate is significantly lower than the experiment's maximum, it is far higher than what a radio frequency communication system is capable of over that distance. Yeah, it takes like hours for radio to go. And that's because of the amount of energy that's being imparted in the beam.
Yeah, this is really significant. I mean, it was farther than the sun. That's hard for most people to fathom.
More than 2.5 times the distance between our planet and the sun.
Right? Can the average person even put that into any context? I don't think so.
Yeah, you'd have to, do pictures of this to show just how far it really is. And they didn't provide any of those types of pictures in this article, which is kind of a shame, just to show just how far out it was. But if we have the ability to send, these large scale data transfers to Mars from Earth, then sending astronauts to Mars means that we can get faster updates to and from them, and give counsel and all of that. Instead of radio waves taking minutes, these take seconds.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely pave the way for living on Mars, right?
Yep. And some people get less bandwidth in their house than this
exactly
is transmitting.
So maybe that'll be the selling point. If they can't recruit people to go, they can be like, look, you're gonna have better internet speed.
Yeah, 6 megs. All right, folks. Well, that's it. So that means we're going to fire up our laser and we're going to transmit ourselves back to the front page of Technology Today at ohmTown.com. Go over and check it out, and be sure to follow us here on Twitch and here on YouTube's and over on the podcasts, wherever you catch pod. I ask you to download it from Apple iTunes and leave a 5-star review there. But also subscribe to us over on Patreon, and there is a Discord. We don't really hang out that much in the Discord though. But with that said, I am Mayor Watt. I'm signing off, and the Sentient AI is going to say later, Gator.
Later, Gator. Thanks for joining us for Technology Today. We'll have another episode of that next week, but stay tuned for 4-Wheel Tech.
See you soon. Maybe about 10 minutes. Bye-bye.